I can't
No.
see any video, no. Not for the congressman.
We tested it.
That's all right. It's better if you don't have to see me. But I guess the participants should be able to, yeah, hopefully. I must have, maybe I pushed the wrong button. Oh, okay. All right.
Well,
There we go.
So we're waiting for Ed?
we're live right now.
Oh, we're live. Okay. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started then, if that's okay with y'all? Good afternoon and welcome to the Military Consumer Protection Forum. I'm Gus Bilirakis and I represent Florida's 12th Congressional District in Washington, D.C. I think you know that. And I represent the Tampa Bay area. Thank God we didn't get hit too badly. A lot of rain last night but we're going to be paying attention. And it was actually probably, the silver lining is we're prepared. God forbid we get a big one. So I appreciate, in addition to serving, and I appreciate all of you, but in addition to serving on the Energy and Commerce Committee, as well as the Health and Communications and Technology subcommittees, I'm the lead Republican, I think most of you know, on the Consumer Protection and Commerce Subcommittee. In this capacity, we work in a bipartisan manner to promote innovation, champion emerging technologies, and protecting consumers. I've also previously, as most of you know, served as vice chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee. And of course, I remain passionate about helping our nation's true heroes. That's my number one priority and always will be. The brave men and women who protect and serve our nation, as well as our veterans. As July is Military Consumer Protection Month, I appreciate you taking the time to learn more about how to protect yourselves and your loved ones from the newest scams. I know we're going to get some helpful information today, and I really appreciate all the participants. We'll get helpful information from our experts. I'd like to thank our group of panelists from federal and state agencies for their work to educate the public and hold these hearings so that we can protect ourselves from those who prey upon the vulnerable populations and our military families. We need to hold these people accountable and they must be punished. But again, this is stuff, with what's going on with the pandemic, and these are tough times, folks. You don't need to be putting up with this stuff. And I know it takes a lot of time and it's distracting. So we all look forward to learning from our panelists today. We'll explore steps you can take to advance our fight against fraud and scams. The pandemic has brought out the best and worst of humanity, as you know. In recent years, we've seen a rise in the number of people looking to scam Americans, unfortunately. This is reprehensible as far as I'm concerned, particularly when they prey on our military families. We've seen everything from promising fake reservations for COVID-19 vaccines, counterfeit products, stimulus checks, and loans for those struggling to stay afloat. I got one the other day. It said that they hacked his account and his unemployment check is going to one of these people that prey on our elderly. And it's just awful. So unfortunately, these scammers are continuing to find new ways to exploit vulnerable Americans. In just the first 6 months of 2020, for example, scams originating from social media tripled, resulting in 117 million in losses. With more consumers turning to these platforms, scammers create fake profiles offering connection, friendship, or economic relief, only to steal information and hard-earned dollars. These scams will often come by way of a friend request and direct messages or advertisements. We know many military families are already coping with additional strain, as I said, and pressure resulting from deployments, transitioning periods, which are very, very difficult, and both visible and invisible wounds resulting from service. The last thing in the world they need is to be dealing with a sneaky scammer. As the FTC continues to publish helpful information on best practices, I urge big tech platforms to do better. They should help users remain vigilant against scams and frauds. Engaging big tech platforms to take a greater role in protecting the public will be a focus of our subcommittee this year. And again, I'm the ranking member. The chairman is Jan Schakowsky from Chicago, and we work really well together. These are not partisan issues. The best preventative measure is education, and entities across the country are working in unison to share educational material. That's why we're here today. If consumers know what to look for, they will be better equipped to avoid scams. Without further ado, we will kick off our program. After brief presentations from our presenters, we will address questions from the audience. And I will tell you folks, at 5 o'clock today, I'm having a town hall meeting with regard to the new Newport Richey outpatient clinic located off of Little Road. I'm really excited about that. So if anyone wants to attend the in-person town hall meeting at the government center, not too far, just actually a few steps to the south of the new outpatient clinic, which is not open yet, but we think we're going to open it up within the next 6 months. But if you'd like to attend personally, we'll be there with you. So if you're participating via Zoom today, you can type your question in the chat box at any time during this call. If you're participating via Facebook Live, please type your question in the comment section. We'll get to as many questions as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my Deputy Chief of Staff, Summer. She just got married about 6 months ago. So Summer Blevins, formerly Robertson. So without further ado, Summer, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Wonderful, thank you. Our first panelist is Josh Friedman. Josh is the Consumer Response Specialist in the Bureau's Office of Service Member Affairs with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Josh, thanks for being here.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Congressman, for providing us with this forum. This is really fantastic. So I did want to, I brought some slides to sort of introduce who we are, who the Office of Service Member Affairs is, and some of the things that we do. As you know, the CFPB is established by Congress, and as part of that requirement, we have an Office of Service Member Affairs. We have 3 core functions. Our job is to educate and empower service members. We have several various educational tools. We also coordinate with some of our other government agencies, such as the FTC and some of the other folks that are here today. And also we monitor consumer complaints, and that's something I will talk about here momentarily. We do get a large number of complaints from our service member populations, and we we monitor those complaints, we monitor the company's responses, and we try and help the consumers get resolution when and wherever possible. So as far as our educate and empower mission, so we'll go to the next slide, please. I do have to give this one brief disclaimer. This is, I am speaking on behalf of the CFPB, but the views I express are not necessarily the views of the CFPB. And also I will mention that nothing I'm saying is a substitute for formal legal advice. There are going to be issues that occur that you may just need to see an attorney. So nothing I'm saying today is intended to be legal advice. So next slide, please. All right. Again, this is, as I mentioned previously, our mission under the Dodd-Frank, educate and empower, monitor and coordinate. Next slide, please. On the Educate and Empower front, our big signature tool that we're working on right now that we really are promoting and is what's called MIM.gov. This is called Misadventures in Money Management. I'm going to show you a brief illustration here in the next slide. But as you see, we have Ask CFPB questions on our website. We've received over 156,000 hits. We have over 400,000 impressions on social media. Throughout the course of the year, we, when there's not a pandemic, we do base visits, do virtual road shows. We've been to bases all over the world since the inception of CFPB, getting the message out and getting messages to young service members in particular about how to protect themselves from financial predators. Next slide, please. So this is our MIM.gov. This is intended for a younger population. A lot of our service members that as young as 18 years old, and they're joining, they're getting into the delayed entry program, 16 and 17. And these sort of interactive graphic novels are really a great tool to reach out to younger service members. Next slide, please. We have 6 characters, and all 6 of these characters have different financial scenarios, different goals that they're planning for. If you want to go to the next slide. As you see, we discuss how to build credit. We offer advice on when to make major purchases like a car, how to resist impulse spending, how to build wealth, how to save, how to avoid certain financial disasters. So this is a hugely useful tool to connect with younger service members to prepare for the financial marketplace. Next slide, please. And again, this is some of the, Angela is a perfect example. Angela's learning how to build her credit. One of the things you'll frequently hear Angela saying in the program is you have to have credit to build credit. And how do you do that? And there's incremental steps along the way to help build your credit from nothing so that you can get a credit card and be able to make purchases on purchase goods and services. And this is really I just can't say enough good things about MIM.gov. Next slide, please. And we also do have a module specifically geared towards military families, as well as for future and current service members. Next slide, please. As far as our coordination, again, this is something that comes directly from Dodd-Frank. We work very closely with the FTC. We work very closely with state AGs, other regulatory agencies. We work with the Department of Justice specifically on Service Member Civil Relief Act violations. We coordinate when and wherever possible to bring about the best possible outcomes for our service member population. Next slide, please. And this is something that is brand new to CFPB. As you know, the Military Lending Act was a bipartisan piece of legislation that was enacted some years ago. And we have just recently issued interpretive guidance that says that when the CFPB examines an institution that we regulate, that we supervise, we are going to examine those institutions for compliance with the Military Lending Act. And that is huge, and that's going to really hopefully pay a lot of real great dividends for our service members and make sure that they're getting all their rights that Congress has appropriated to them. Next slide, please. As again, I mentioned the coordination, any violation of the SCRA ultimately gets enforced by the Department of Justice. We share a lot of our complaint statistics with the DOD, with Congress. And then we work directly with the Department of Defense, side by side on some of their financial education products. We share what we see, they share with us what they're seeing, and we really together have a great program to help service members. Next slide, please. So this is a big part of our mission. This is the complaint monitoring function. Last year, just from the service member population alone, the CFPB received over 40,000 complaints from service members, family members, veterans, and that was huge. That was more complaints than we'd ever received before in 2020. Anybody that has an issue with the financial product or service, this is the link to our website where you can submit that complaint. We route that complaint to the company. We get you a response, usually within 15 days, but sometimes that can take as long as 60 days. If you consent, we can publish that complaint. We scrub your personally identifiable information. When you get that response from the company, if you don't agree, if you want to dispute that response that you've received from the company, you get an additional 60 days to submit a dispute that's available for our review. Next slide, please. And again, how we use that data once you submit a complaint. We use it to improve our educational products. Our educational products that we create our blogs, it's directly a product of what we're seeing in the complaint data. We inform our CFPB's supervision of companies. So we will go to our Division of Office of Supervision and Enforcement, and we'll tell them and say, this is what's going on with what our complaint data is showing us. And when our supervision team goes on site, they've got that complaint data in hand and they're ready to do a thorough examination and make sure that the institutions we regulate are in compliance with the laws and regulations that we enforce. And of course, when we see complaints like SCRA violations, we share that directly with the DOJ or we share with the DOD about some of the things that we're seeing affecting the service member population. Next slide, please. And this is an area that's a little bit confusing for some folks, how to actually submit the complaint. So if you want to go to the next slide. As I mentioned, this is the link to our website. We always encourage service members, veterans, please indicate your service member status because that helps us track data and tailor our programming. We can tell if there's a particular issue that's occurs more frequently with the Marines or occurs more frequently with the Air Force. And it helps our programming when we visit a base. So please indicate your service member status, whether you're active duty, whether you're Guard or Reserve, retired, veteran, family member. The more information you can provide us, the better. And as far as the substance of your actual complaint, we always encourage you to tell us exactly what happened, who did what to whom, and what, those key details. If there's documents you want to attach, you can do that as well. We always ask you, what do you think would be fair? We never promise an outcome, but we always want to hear from you about what you think would be a fair resolution to your complaint, because the company considers that as well. And then also we want to hear what you've tried to do to resolve that issue. Have you tried to speak directly with the company? Have you talked to your credit reporting company? Have you talked to supervisors? We want to hear all of that because that helps both the company and the Bureau as well. Next slide, please. So again, these are just the 5 steps that we encourage you to really consider about your, what is the complaint about? What type of product are we talking about? Are we talking about a debt collector, a credit reporting company? Are we talking about your credit card company? What type of problem are you having? All these things that, the details we want to know, what, and that really helps inform our the company's response as well as our response. Next slide, please. And again, you get your choice of product. So debt collection, mortgage, a payday loan, a student loan, you get to choose your product. Next slide, please. The sub-product. Sometimes you might have a debt collector that's calling you about a credit card. So we give you that opportunity to have a sub-product. That's just a perfect example. Next slide, please. The type of problem. Are you upset about the communication tactics? Are they making false statements, threatening to have you arrested? Did you not get a written notification about your debt? Are they threatening to sue you? These are the, we give you that opportunity. Next slide, please. What is it? Why is it that you are upset? Why is it that you're concerned? Are you concerned that this debt was already paid? Are you concerned that it's not your debt? Was your identity stolen? We want to know these things. Next slide, please. And then this is just an opportunity for you to tell us in your own words what happened, and just giving as much detail as possible, and giving the company the opportunity to give you the best response possible. Next slide, please. And again, this is a box. It's purely optional. If you don't want us to publish your complaint, we won't. But this is you can tell us if you want us to publish, and we do scrub all your personally identifiable information. Next slide, please. And again, we ask you, what do you think would be fair? Again, and I qualify that I never promise an outcome. Next slide, please. And this is an opportunity to really think hard about the company name. Who is the company that you actually believe has wronged you? Sometimes you might be complaining about a credit card debt, but your dispute is with the merchant. You might be complaining about a debt that's on your credit report, but it's the furniture that you're more concerned. It's that credit card company that put the debt on your credit report that you're more concerned about. And again, if you give us account numbers, social security numbers, we don't publish that, that's private, but it helps the company to locate your account and gets you that timely response. Next slide, please. Again, and this is, you can submit complaints on behalf of another person, but you have to have that person's written consent. So it's always better if the individual, it's always better if you're submitting the complaint on behalf of yourself. Next slide, please. Again, demographic information. This is your opportunity to tell us, are you the service member or the veteran? Are you the spouse of a service member? You can give us your age. Next slide, please. And again, active, your rank. We track products by rank. We track, we'll want to know what issues are more likely to affect junior enlisted. What problems are senior members likely to face? What base are you stationed at? These are all useful pieces of information that help us design our programming. Next slide, please. And again, of course, we do require you that you assert that the information in your complaint is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, and your complaint is submitted. Next slide, please. And again, these are the responses you may get from the company. This is required by the Dodd-Frank Act. They're going to respond by saying within 15 to 60 days, they're going to say, what have they done thus far to help resolve your complaint? What they're going to tell you what prior communication they've had with you, the consumer. What are they going to do? Again, no outcome is promised. We don't force a company to do anything, but that company has the opportunity to say in their complaint response, what are they going to do? And then how are they categorizing this complaint, and how are they closing the complaint? And they have a manual that we provide them that tells them how they need to close out the complaint. Next slide, please. And again, there's a couple of ways they can say it's in progress. They can ask for that additional 45 days to do more investigation. They can close with an explanation, just say, we checked the numbers, we don't agree with you. They can close with what we call non-monetary relief. If they say, you know what, you're right, we're going to take this debt off your credit report, we would call that non-monetary relief. And then there's monetary relief. If you had a problem with a fee, or maybe you think you were overcharged for interest, they might say, okay, we'll refund you this money. And so we'll say that complaint was closed with monetary relief. Next slide, please. And these are just a couple of useful resources we have just to protect, during the pandemic. And as the Congressman mentioned, COVID brings out the best and the worst in people. So we just have some useful tools to help protect and rebuild your finances during the pandemic. Next slide, please. We have a central hub, consumerfinance.gov/coronavirus. This is everything we know about that's what's been going on with coronavirus, whether it's dealing with frauds and scams or debt collections or any types of deferment options that are available. Everything we know is on that website. Next slide, please. And just again, some of the contents and themes, as the Congressman talked about, frauds and scams, stimulus issues, other financial products or services, and how to protect your credit. Next slide, please. And I know I'm over time, but thank you very much. And I'm certainly happy to take anyone's questions.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Josh.
Appreciate it, Josh.
Next, we have Ed Rodriguez, Veterans Affairs Director for the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Thank you, Ed.
I saw that Ed was on.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me now? My internet connection cut out a little bit.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Ed.
Here we
Oh,
go.
there, we can see you.
Okay. Okay. Everything's good now, I guess.
Yeah, it's all good.
So, yeah, there we go. So hi, everyone. My name is Ed Rodriguez. I am the Veterans Affairs Director for the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And in that capacity, I advise the department on all issues as they relate to veterans. Next slide, please. So a little bit about me. I am a former Navy corpsman with the Marines, hoorah, and I have prior experience in veterans advocacy in Washington, D.C. And of course, I'm very aware of the great work that the Congressman has done for veterans, so thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Next slide. And here is a picture of Commissioner Nikki Fried. She leads our department. Next slide, please. And within our department, we have the Division of Consumer Services. In a nutshell, our division protects Floridians from fraud, waste, and abuse. And one of the ways we do that is by providing information so Floridians can better protect themselves against those sorts of scams. Next slide, please. And in addition to that, we also are the state's clearinghouse for consumer complaints. So we gather all those complaints, and if it merits, we investigate those complaints to try to shut down scams if they're happening. And one of the ways you would submit a complaint is via our webpage, which is floridaconsumerhelp.com, or you can call one of our hotlines, one in English, one in Spanish. So, and you can see that here in this slide. Next slide, please. Now, on veterans consumer protection, one of the important changes that we made in our division back in 2019 is when the commissioner came in, she asked to see all the veterans-related complaints, to see the trends, and anything in regards to that. Unfortunately, that information could not be provided because at the time, the division was not tracking for complaints as they pertain to veterans and service members. So we made a change to our form, and we now track for that. And since that change was made, we've gotten 1,400 complaints from veterans and service members here in Florida. Next slide, please. Now, in regards to specific cases, last year we investigated a bad nonprofit called the Children of Wounded Warriors, and that was a charity that claimed to be raising money for children of injured and slain military service members and first responders. Unfortunately, they were utilizing those funds in a bad way. And once the investigation was concluded, we revoked their charity status and we fined them $60,000. And in addition to that, we also have one case pending right now. I can't speak on that for legal reasons. When that case is closed, then I can provide the details. But for now, all I can say is that we do have an investigation pending on another organization. Next slide, please. Now, type of scams that veterans and service members are prone to, there are many of the same scams that every other Floridian is prone to: identity theft, rental scams, charity scams, unfair car deals, and unfortunately with COVID-19 scams. An important difference, though, is because military service members and veterans, they tend to have more stable incomes. Scammers know that, and they go after those populations in very specific ways. So we do try to guard against that and keep an eye on those sorts of scams. On my end, I personally review every complaint that is provided by veterans or service members, in addition to our division as a whole. So we have two sets of eyes on that when we get those sorts of complaints. Next slide, please. And here is our veterans webpage. In addition to the consumer items, we also house every other item in regards to agriculture and consumer services. So you can find that by Googling FDACS Veterans. Next slide, please. And here is our Consumer Services Division webpage. Now, if you have a complaint, if you know of any scams that are going on, it's very important that you submit an actual complaint. On my end, I hear from veterans all the time. So, well, I heard from this person, or I heard someone say this about this scam. Until we actually see the complaint with the details, there's very little we can do. So it's very important that if you see these sorts of scams and fraud happening in Florida, that you provide those complaints. And you can do that by going to our webpage, either by submitting a complaint online or printing out the form and handwriting the complaint and submitting it to us. Next slide, please. And here's my personal contact information. The phone number here is my government cell phone, and also here's my email. So feel free to utilize those if you see or hear anything in regards to scam, fraud, and abuse, or anything veterans related that you think our department can help with. Next slide, please. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you, and Semper Gumpy. Semper Gumpy is a Corpsman saying, means always flexible. The Marines have Semper Fi, always faithful. On our end, being combat medics, we do need to be very flexible, so we utilize this saying frequently. And thanks for having us, and please let me know if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it very much.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
Next,
Congressman.
next we have Carol Condo Pineda, FTC's Division of Consumer and Business Education Services. Thank you, Carol, for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody today. Thank you, Congressman Bilirakis, and thank you to our prior speakers who we've worked together a little bit on some of these military and veterans issues. Quickly today, there's lots and lots to talk about when it comes to fraud and scams, and I'm going to highlight some of the most prevalent scams that we see, and then I'm going to walk you through some of those red flags so that no matter how the scammers change the story, you'll probably be able to spot that you're dealing with a scammer. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
Okay, so imposter scams, impersonators. I call them the great pretenders. Basically, it's any kind of a scammer that pretends to be somebody legitimate, like a legitimate business, a legitimate organization that you do business with or that you maybe donate to, or somebody that you know, friends, family, loved ones. They want to convince you to send them money, and sometimes they want to convince you to share your personal information. So, you know, the stories have evolved over the years, and they change depending on the circumstance, depending on what's going on in the world and where the scammers think they find an opportunity. But two of the big ones that we still continue to see involve government imposters and online romance scams. So a government imposter can range from somebody pretending to call you and pretending to be from the IRS and saying there's something wrong with your taxes and you need to pay right away to clear up some back taxes, or you need to pay a fee to get something straightened out. And of course, if you send them the money, it's gone. There's no problem with your taxes. Or it could be the scammer calls and says there's a problem with your social security number. It could be, this is from the FTC, you've won, we've gotten some money back for consumers in a case, and we have money to return to you, but you need to pay the taxes on it, or you need to pay a fee on it. Those kinds of scams happen all the time. Somebody pretending with a plausible story from the government, and that all you need to do is send them money right away, and it'll solve the problem. You'll get your redress money back from a case. They'll fix your social security number, whatever the scam ends up being, whatever the story is for that one. For online romance scams, it's somebody that you meet on an online dating site, and they sort of try to take time to build your trust and to try to build a relationship with you. And then suddenly they need money for something, and it very often will start out small so that it seems perfectly reasonable in the context, and it sounds like, oh, I can send them this money. They're my friend. I've gotten to know them over time. And then it gets bigger, and then usually they ask you for a lot of money. The story can be they need money to travel. Sometimes these scammers will pretend that they're service members, and they need to pay to take leave, or they need to pay to do paperwork. None of those things is true. If somebody that you don't know is asking you for money, you shouldn't send it. It's almost always a sign of a scam. And we know online romance scams went way, way, way up in 2020 because we were all doing everything virtually during that year, including dating. People lost hundreds of millions of dollars to these online romance scammers. So you really just want to keep kind of a jaded eye and have your ears up and open for those warning signs that you might be encountering a scammer. And we're going to talk about those. Next slide, please. So another scam I wanted to highlight is a fake check scam. Now, the stories can vary. They may tell you all kinds of things. But the bottom line is somebody sends you a check and they ask you to wire money back to them. It could be maybe you were on a job site and you think that maybe you've matched up with an employer and you're starting to work out the final details of when you can work for them. And they may say to you, here, I'm going to send you a check to go get some special equipment that you need for the job. Or if it's a caregiver job, they may ask you to go get supplies for the person that you're going to care for. And they expect you to wire, they send you the check and they say, oh, we accidentally sent you too much. Could you please wire back 500 of that 2,000 that we sent you? And the problem is that you deposit that check and the funds become immediately available. And so you think it's a good check, I can wire that money back. It seems very legitimate. But the banks are required to make that money available to you right away under the law. But then they do their investigation and the check makes their way through the system. Maybe 2 weeks later, they'll discover that that check is fake, that it completely bounced, and there really isn't $2,000 in your account. And the bank is going to require you to pay back any money that you wired to somebody. That money comes out of your account. So this one's tough because the money is long gone and it's really hard to figure out, how you could get it back. And so it's wisest just never to deposit a check from a stranger and wire money back. That's almost always a scam. Next slide. So I highlight this particular scam because it's kind of the moment, right? We're all getting back to traveling and we're getting back out in the world. And if you've tried to make travel arrangements for this summer, you'll know it's really hard to get a rental car. And so scammers see that opportunity and they jump in and have created fake sites that will lure you in to look at cards. They even have fake customer service numbers that you can call and try to make arrangements for renting a car through them. And it all sounds very appealing. And all of a sudden you can get a car and you just want to do it. And they want you to pay in advance. And they want you to pay in some odd ways, like sending a gift card or wiring them money. And those are signs that you're not dealing with a legitimate rental car company. So you want to do your research ahead of time before you rent a car and really get online and look around at sites that you know to be legitimate. You've typed in the URL yourself and you know that you're really at the rental car company. You don't want to depend on search results because sometimes the scammers are able to get their fake websites up above the real sites. And so it's very easy to be confused that way. So you want to make sure that you really do your due diligence and type that in for yourself and find the real legitimate site. And next, if you can, pay with a credit card because you have more protections that way. And if it ends up being a scam, you can stop payment a little bit more quickly and perhaps get your money back. Next slide, please. So we've talked a little bit about some of how those stories play out, right? And during COVID, we saw a lot of those similar types of scams, but they had a COVID-19 angle, or they had a vaccination angle, or a testing angle. These rental car scams, they've got the vacations hook because people are now trying to rent cars and they can't. Or you might be PCSing and need to rent a car. There's a very high demand, and so they're going to follow those headlines. So one of the signs of a scam is that it follows the headlines. It tends to be something that is pressing or urgent, or it's in the news, and there's a little bit of confusion around it. And so you don't necessarily know what the right thing to do is, and the scammers try to get in there. The second thing they do is they create a sense of urgency and they threaten some terrible consequence. So with the government imposter scammers, they may say your social security number is going to be erased from the records, or it's compromised somehow, or if you don't pay your back taxes, you're going to be sued or arrested, or threatening you somehow. A lot of these scams will create that kind of urgency and make you very afraid about what's going to happen. And they know they threaten some terrible consequence if you don't act right then and there. And they pressure you to act now and to pay them immediately. They want to create some emotion in you, and they want to create that urgency so that you really feel the pressure to act right away. You need to do something, better safe than sorry. I better do something right now. And they want you to pay, and they want you to pay by ways that are untraceable, by ways that make it very hard to get your money back. And then that's all that they need. They just need that little bit of time, that little bit of wobble in your confidence so that you think you're acting immediately to help yourself. And that's exactly when they can take advantage. Next slide. So more signs of a scam. I just mentioned the untraceable payment methods. So this is what I mean by that. If somebody demands that you pay with a gift card, don't do it. Gift cards are meant for gifts. They're meant to give to somebody as a gift. They're not meant as methods of payment. And what the scammers sometimes will do is if the scam has come in on the phone, they may keep you on the phone until you go to the store and buy the gift card and you scratch off the number on the back and read them the number, the PIN number. Once you do that, they've got the value of the card. And when I first heard about this, I thought, well, what? That seems kind of strange. Like, how are they going to use the card? Well, then they just resell those numbers, on the black market, and they get the value of the card. They get the value of whatever amount of gift card you bought because they told you to buy. And we're not talking $25, $50 gift cards. They can be very, very large amounts, $1,000, $5,000 gift cards. But by that point, people are sort of panicking with that sense of urgency that's been created and that pressure and the fear of the consequences, that they go ahead and do it. And not everybody's lucky enough to have somebody step in and say, slow down, maybe you shouldn't do this. That's your mission, to share it with everybody, to tell them if somebody asks you to pay with a gift card, it's a scam. If somebody asks you to pay with digital money or some kind of cryptocurrency, you want to think twice about that. There are more and more scams now that are playing out where the scammer is asking you to pay with cryptocurrency, because once that's sent and transferred, it's gone. That's the whole point. It's anonymous. So you really want to think long and hard about that, because that is a warning sign for you. And if somebody asks you to pay by wiring money, you really don't want to do that. You don't want to wire money to people that you don't know, because typically you can't get it back. And at least take the time to slow down and ask some questions, talk to somebody you trust, and think about it. And probably you'll see that it's not the best idea, but at least you've taken the time to think about it. Next slide. So when it comes to any kinds of these frauds or scams, or even just deceptive practices, things out there that you feel like weren't quite right and you wanted to report, even if you didn't lose money, you can go to reportfraud.ftc.gov. It's very easy. It's very similar to our identity theft site, which it walks you through screen by screen. And as Josh from CFPB said, the more information you can give, the better, because that fleshes out exactly what the scenario was. And we don't respond back to complaints, but they are extremely helpful in terms of helping to build some of our cases, letting us know what sorts of frauds are out there, how they're evolving. And it's really helpful for our education mission, because sometimes a complaint is the first time that we hear about a particular kind of a scam, and we can do a blog post about it and warn people while our attorneys are investigating and trying to figure out how to get to the bottom of it and stop it. Next slide, please. So I mentioned identitytheft.gov, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on that. So the point of a lot of these scams is to steal money from you. But sometimes, the point is to get your personal information. And the reason scammers would want your personal information is to commit identity theft, so that they can get goods and services in your name, charge things in your name, perhaps get your tax refund. There are different ways that they can misuse your identity. And if you suspect that somebody is misusing your identity, you want to go to identitytheft.gov. That's the FTC's one-stop shop about identity theft. It's where you can get, when you file the complaint, and let us know. Congress has charged us with collecting all of the complaints about identity theft that are out there, so that we have some idea of the scope of the problem and how it might be changing and how we can help consumers. And when you file your complaint, you get a personal recovery plan. So depending on the variation of identity theft we're talking about, the recovery plan will tell you, if it's related to your taxes, they'll tell you where to go at the IRS to get some help there for your taxes, and that'll tell you what else you need to do to start to build that recovery trail. You can get step-by-step advice on everything that you need to do. We even have sample letters and forms, so that once you've filled out your complaint, then it will automatically populate those sample letters and forms. And let me tell you why that's important. Not only is it efficient for you, because it creates that documentation that you need to dispute the identity theft. But there are certain rights you get as an identity theft victim under the law, and those are conferred by what's called an identity theft report. You have to create that identity theft report. And then you have certain rights to say you're the identity theft victim, to get things off of your credit report permanently. And you can create that identity theft report by filing that complaint with the FTC. When you go to print your report and submit it or save it as a PDF, it saves or it prints as the identity theft report. So there you have it. You have your identity theft report in hand, and you can attach that to the sample letter that's printed out with all of your information in it and send it to whoever you need to send to dispute the identity theft. So when identity theft first happens, there are some things you need to do right away. So you need to send those sample letters. You need to contact the company where you think the identity theft occurred, whether it's a retail company or your utility company or something like that. And then you can use the identity theft report and the sample letter to send to those folks after you call them. You call them and you try to tell them it's identity theft and you either need to close an account or dispute a charge. And then they're probably going to want something in writing to follow up. And identitytheft.gov helps you create that. And you want to contact the credit reporting company to tell them there's a problem on your credit report. This is a case of identity theft and you need to get that charge off of your credit report. And then you want to get copies of your credit report to make sure that there aren't other charges that you need to dispute. And identitytheft.gov, the letters in the identity theft report help you do that. Those are things that after you call, you can follow up with those letters and create that paper trail so that if a problem ever comes back again, you can show that you disputed all of those charges and they were corrected. So identitytheft.gov can really help you on that whole recovery process. There's chat and phone support, and the whole site is also in Spanish. So we think it's a really good first place to go to help you get on top of the situation. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to encourage everybody to sign up for scam alerts at militaryconsumer.gov. If you go to militaryconsumer.gov and click on email updates, that'll subscribe you to get the scam alerts that we put out up on our blog. We take a lot of the information from FTC's main consumer site, especially when we see a new scam, and put that up on Military Consumer as well. And so that way you're the first to know about these new scams as they arise. Next step, please. So that's the end of my formal presentation, but really looking forward to talking with people and hearing any questions you might have. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We did have a few questions that came through the various messaging apps. And so first we have from Cindy in Palm Harbor. Are you aware of any legal resources for military families who have been a victim of a scam?
I guess I'm thinking what kind of legal resources we're talking about. You certainly would want to report it to the FTC. You might want to report it to your state attorney general because there may be cases going on about that scam already and at your state attorney general or at the FTC. And then I would suggest that folks look at either Military Consumer or FTC's main site, consumer.ftc.gov. That's been completely revamped and updated just in this past year. And there's a lot of very helpful advice on our website, depending on what the scam might be. We try to give people very actionable, practical tips so that if you have lost money, we have a whole article called What to Do If You've Been Scammed. And so it tells you if you gave somebody your credit card number, this is what you do. If you gave somebody your social security number, here's what you should do. If you wired money, here's what you should do. And so that goes a long way towards at least helping you stop the damage and maybe getting your money back. So go to consumer.ftc.gov and look for what to do if you were scammed.
Now, is there anyone else that can add to that? For example, I know we have these in the area, we have the Bay Area Legal Services for those who qualify. But is there something specifically where attorneys would do pro bono work on behalf of active military personnel or veterans or their families? Is there a resource like that in the Tampa Bay area or nationwide for that matter?
Congressman, I can take that. I believe the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs does have an initiative that provides legal resources to veterans. So
To
they
veteran
should.
specifically.
Mhm.
Good, very good.
I would also add that if you're anywhere near an installation that has a personal financial manager, that PFM may be able to direct you to the legal services that are closest to you that you qualify for. So it's always worth it to reach out to them and ask.
Very good.
Great information. And Cindy, if you are having difficulty and need help connecting with one of those resources, you can always feel free to call our office as well, 727-232-2921, and we can help link you to
We'll
the
direct you to the
resources
right
that
place.
they've
Absolutely.
discussed here.
Absolutely.
We have a second question here from Adam in Dade City. With the newest Russian hacks on American businesses, do you believe military families are disproportionately impacted, or are appropriate safeguards in place to protect military family sensitive data?
Good question.
Do we have any information about that?
Okay, well, it doesn't look like anyone does, but what we'll do is we'll get back to you. We'll look
Absolutely.
into that right away and we'll get an answer for you with regard to that. If there isn't anything out there, there should be. So we'll look into it right away. Yeah, do you want?
I would add that, I can't speak to DOD's, protection policies or anything like that, but I would say that service members, military families are entitled to free electronic credit monitoring. And if you're concerned in the interim that your information has been exposed and possibly misused, sign up for that free electronic credit monitoring as a military family, because then that way you can keep track of what's happening on your credit report and nip it in the bud.
Great information. And a great idea. Thank you so much, Carol. And finally, Jerry asked, will your slides be available? And they will. All the slides that were presented today will be on Congressman Bilirakis's website under the Consumer Financial Protection tab for military families. And so we would encourage you to visit that website and to share as appropriate.
Summer, I know that this seminar is specifically for military families and they do come first. But if there are people listening, whether it's on Facebook or on our Zoom that aren't military families, where can they turn? Is there a website you can talk to them?
We also, in addition to the resources that were shared here today, we have a separate tab for military families, but we also have one for consumer protection initiatives through the FTC and other federal and state agencies for all Americans. So visiting our website and looking for that consumer protection tab will be the right place to go.
Yeah, and we did do a consumer affairs general seminar a few weeks back. Is that still on our website?
It is, yes.
Okay, so you can go to that as well. I had a question here. First of all, on the Social Security numbers, the IRS, I know, you can confirm this. There's somebody calls you and says they're from the government, they ask for your Social Security number, or if you owe back taxes, it's a scam. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
That's a scam.
Now, there's this, and I don't know whether this is a good question or not, but I watch some TV when I get home from DC, usually on demand, and there's one particular program that I'm really fascinated with that has a lot of potential, and it's a comedy, and it's called United States of Al. Some people know it, and they usually give a message at the end of the program. I don't know, has anybody seen it? Any of the panel? Okay, we'll watch it because it's very interesting. It's a veteran, actually a warrior that came back from the service from Afghanistan, and his interpreter from Afghanistan, an Afghan interpreter. And we watched that program, but also there is a movement in Congress to make sure that we promise these interpreters that they could come back to the United States once their job is completed. They've saved so many lives. Matter of fact, members of Congress like Mike Waltz and Crenshaw have said that these interpreters have saved their lives. But in any case, there is a movement in Congress to make sure that we have visas available for their interpreters and their families. But the reason I brought it up is, I don't know whether I can contact them, but it's a nice message. at the end to have referrals, like in other words, references, VA, military, how we can help out our veterans, the transition process as well. I think that played a role in how Congress has reacted with regard to our interpreters. Now, hopefully the Senate picks it up too, because the House passed a bill last week. But there was one particular episode where the veteran, and a young guy in his late 20s, but went into the service when he was 18 years old. So he went to purchase an automobile. You talked about the unfair deals, and then that's true with homes too. But he wasn't equipped. Actually, they went to purchase an automobile for the interpreter, and the veteran wasn't equipped to make a good deal, and it got scammed really, or misrepresented by the company, by the dealer, and that's a shame. But they should have had something at the end of the program saying, "Well, this is where you turn. We've got to be proactive. This is where you turn to get the proper information or be educated with regard to this." And this should be available to our veterans. And I know that all this is available more than likely on the internet and through the websites. But we've got to do a better job getting the word out, the awareness, and be proactive. Reactive is good, but you don't want these things to happen in the first place. They have enough trouble, dealing, of course, with the pandemic, and then the TBI in some cases, PTS in some cases. That's another issue that could be used as part of a sitcom, the situation that what they deal with on a regular basis, and where to seek help from the VA or their nonprofits. So anyway, I've talked long enough. Is there anyone that wants to comment on that?
Yeah, Congressman, I'll just say you're absolutely right. And we've done a lot of research internally here in the Bureau. We've done research that shows that transitional period you speak of, those folks as they're leaving the service, that's sort of make or break with the credit. And auto is a big part of that, buying that car right at the end of your service, making that transition. And sometimes things don't go as planned. And that's where we see sort of where service members sort of take a dip in their credit histories, that transition period when they leave the service. And so we try to put as much educational period as we can about that.
No, that's important. And I know that y'all try to do a good job before the veterans honorary discharge. But if there were somewhere they could turn to, just like that, prior to going to purchase the automobile, because it's exciting. To get an automobile, a new car, particularly if you returned from your service overseas. But if there's a place where they can turn and see, what to look for to make sure that they're not taking advantage of, I think that would be great too.
Definitely.
All right, well, I'll turn it over to Summer.
That is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for our presenters. If you do want to view a copy of the slides, you can visit billaracus.house.gov or find us through Facebook at Rep. Gus Billaracus. And we appreciate everyone's time and expertise.
I hope this has been helpful. Thank you very much for all the information, the very informative information. Take care. And if anybody wants to head out to our in-person town hall meeting tonight, actually at 5 o'clock, what is it, a couple hours from now? And please don't hesitate. In the Pasco County Government Center, West Pasco County Government Center. Thank you very much. Where the county commission meets on a regular basis. Take care. God bless. Thank you for your service to our country.